to the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, Mele Kyari, no one produces oil for it to be stolen, and this aptly describes the situation currently facing Nigeria's oil sector, as vandalism have become a menace and a scourge for that sector, thereby hindering growth and development of that sector. Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. On this program, we'll give you all the updates in the fast-paced world of business, finance and investment across different sectors of the Nigerian economy. I am your host, Christiana Amodu Otia. Thank you for joining in on the program today. On today's edition of the program, we will continue to x-ray issues in the Nigeria's oil sector. The global oil market has been consumed lately by economic concerns due to concerns over global recession that is sending shivers down the spines of investors. Back home in Nigeria, the sector is faced with the challenge of oil theft, which has caused so much losses to the sector, running into humongous sum, especially bearing in mind that Nigeria is currently seeking for ways to shore up revenue buffers. This will be the crux of the matter on the program today. I will be joined later in the course of the program by my guest, Prince Kevin Fineface. He's an energy consultant, and he will be sharing perspective on how this menace can be nipped in the bud and, of course, bring prosperity to Nigeria's oil sector. It promises to be an insightful one. I will hold my breaks here, take a short breather. When I return, the program will continue. Please stay.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back to the program, and thank you for still staying there with us on Business Daily on Trust Television. It's time to get into the matter of the day, and we're looking at the Nigeria's oil sector, the developments that we have seen come up from that sector in recent time, especially as it relates to oil theft and how much the country is losing to vandalism from the oil sector. I have my guest with me now in the studio. He's Prince Kevin Fineface. He is an energy consultant and someone who monitors development in that sector. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, my pleasure. Good morning.
So before we get into these developments, because I know you have been following it and you've seen what is really playing out in that sector, let's take a look at some of the figures with regards to how much Nigeria is losing in the oil sector to oil theft. Of course, Nigeria loses 470,000 barrels per day to crude oil theft, amounting to $700 million monthly due to this menace. Over 270,000 barrels per day that was supposed to be loaded in Bonny are no longer going to be loaded. Stolen oils is worth more than $10 billion, which is equivalent to 4.3 trillion naira. That's at 430 naira to $1. That's according to analysis by Premium Times. This financial loss is more than 50% of Nigeria's external reserves. Nigeria's crude oil production fell below 1 million barrels per day in August to hit a 32-year low. Nigeria produced 1.41 million barrels per day compared to the average OPEC quota of 1.68 million barrels per day for the month of January 2022. Now, this damage has reduced exports, forced some companies to shut down production, and cripple the country's fiscal stability. Nigeria is losing 95% of oil output to criminals. Nigeria lost $4 billion to theft at the rate of 200,000 barrels per day in the year 2021. Now, Nigeria lost 1.6 billion. In the year 2020, Nigeria lost 42.25 million barrels per day. That's $2.77 billion. That's according to NATI in the year 2019. And in 2018, about 53.28 million barrels of crude oil vanished from Nigeria's resources, according to NATI in the year 2018. Now, the losses have continued to increase in this sector. I want Kevin Fineface to come in now. However, before I have you share your thoughts, I want you to listen to this excerpt from engineer Kelani Mohammed. He's also an energy analyst. He did speak about this development of oil theft and proffered solutions on what should be done to help curb this situation. Take a listen.
The only thing our Nigerian army need to do now, the Navy and the new task force, is to make sure that all these small batches that move through the creeks with some with 5,000 metric tons, some with 200,000, some with 200,000, those small batches, they tend to bypass where the military are. And then they will come onto the high sea, to the vessels, while they will now offload, and then they will move away with our products. So I think the military has to do something. They must have to make sure that they have what it takes to go into those creeks, where all this, and you know, even the multinational companies, they also steal our products. From the oil wells, they can throw their pipes there. They will load, nobody will know. Or they will go and punch the pipes on the floor lines, and they will be taking the product. I think the measures that have been taken so far is good. Those that are stealing this oil, they are stinking rich. They are very powerful in the society, and they can do anything to make sure that they fight back. Anybody that is joking with over 200 million Nigerians, because we depend on oil, we should fight those people. No matter their position in the society, no matter who they are, we are not expected to sit back and watch them destroy our economy.
I like how that excerpt landed, destroying Nigeria's economy. And that's exactly what vandalism and oil theft is doing to Nigeria's economy, because we have seen that sector be a mainstay of the nation's economy for a long time. Brent crude has been booming for some time, the international benchmark for crude oil, although we know the oil in West African region is pegged to the Bonny Light. Now, appraise the situation that you have monitored over time for me. You are a security and energy consultant, so you are on both divides. Appraise how would you term what we are seeing playing out in that sector, especially in recent days?
You know, we're quick to use semantics to say there's oil theft. It's actually basically unorganized, the high-level systemic criminality going on. There's no way the amount of oil that has been claimed to have been stolen would have been stolen if there hasn't been collusion from top-level officials. You know that crude is not something that you can just move. In fact, the guys who oftentimes have been involved in bunkering use smaller barges to ferry out the crude to the high sea. Nigerian waterways is being secured, monitored by the Nigerian Navy. Yes. And in some cases, the Joint Task Force is also part of, because of the crude thing. But what I've come to also realize is that there's always been that collusion from government officials, top level, be it in the military, be it in the pipeline company, be it in NNPC. I'm saying this on record, and it's not something they can deny.
Because I was going to ask you that these are strong claims, finger pointing to individuals at different levels of operation in that sector. Yeah, now, you saying that there's a collusion with them, these are quite strong claims.
Of course, it's not something that is
will you be able to substantiate this claims?
Obviously, I mean, it's even in the public space. We saw the naval heads, making those claims about those collisions. Vessels are seized on the highway. A call is made and the vessels are released. What do you call that? Every vehicle that's supposed to load from Bonny, right, terminal, is supposed to have clearance. And so what are the codes given? No vessel moving into a territorial water without first identifying itself. So if vessels are coming in and out of the country, it means they've been identified. If they've been identified, it means they've been approved to be on our waterways. Because there's no way the Navy would have allowed that to taking place if there has not been any superior order given for them to actually allow for those vessels to go. Crude, Nigerian crude is one of the best in the world that can be easily identified anywhere in the world. So it's not something you steal and say, okay, you can hide it anywhere. No. There are ways that communications are being done, at top levels to communicate. The buyers and the sellers are complicit. And so when you find the people, like he said, that even the oil companies steal this oil, true, they do. Because they have people in authority who connive with them. I think one of the best ways that we can actually follow through with this thing, to get to the nip of it, is to be able to monitor the tele-density of the nation, and especially those who occupy key positions in those areas, who are key stakeholders. If we monitor the calls, data, voice, and otherwise, you will be shocked to see what has transpired over the years. Even if they use satellite phones to do their communications, or they use emails to do their communication, we would have seen these things. It's not like it's difficult to know who is taking what. It is that the interests of those who are doing this thing, being protected by those they are also satisfying. They don't just go steal this oil. Yes, there are those pockets, criminals who steal to start doing, what do you call it, illegal refinery in the southern region, like we find in Imo State, River State, Bayelsa, and Cross River, and even Akwa Ibom. We saw those pockets, illegal refineries that existed. Question is, if we've been having this illegal refineries taking place and also generating environmental hazard, like we saw it with the Sooth, in Port Harcourt, and other places, what steps have been taken to ensure these things are stopped? How are we been able to transit these illegal refinery people into having these, so-called modular refineries that was promised when the vice president, then as the acting president, went to the Niger Delta region to promise for this to take place? What steps have been taken since that period, since 2017 to date, to ensure that these people who have shown the skill, even with foreigners, because they don't just go refine this illegally by themselves, they have foreigners. We saw some of the, some foreigners have been arrested as a result of that. Are they taking steps to ensure that these people are transited into doing it right? And if doing it right, what are the measures taken to ensure the pipelines that are responsible for transporting our crude have actually, passed the integrity test after being installed for 25, 30 years to 40 years now? Because, if you're not doing the integrity test to ensure those pipes are in shape, it means that you are basically allowing that to take place for interests that be. We know for a fact that every now and then the terminals are open for people that will actually want to do the bunkering, for people that want to carry the crude. I'm not saying this because I just want to say this, because these are things that are known even in their circle. That's why some of them can actually kill for deployment, for postings. They do everything possible to be posted to those regions so they can also go make their own money, a local kind of, experience. Let
me come in now. Now there's been a whole lot of finger pointing since this conversation started about cartels coming from home community, and you also have stated here that we have some kingpins in this whole situation.
Top level.
Now, what kind of political, although that's still, like I mentioned, it's still, we need to substantiate some allegations, because allegations are not facts. But what kind of political firmness and commitment do you think can tackle this rot and basically bring about prosperity in that sector?
First, those who have been involved in this criminality, if they have the conscience to say enough is enough, then we can actually start having steps which address it. If the president, who happens to be the Minister of Petroleum, is alive to his responsibility as the minister and as the president, of course, he automatically knows what to do. For the Mele Kyari to say that 700 million has been stolen, he has no business being in that office anymore, because it shows that he actually lost the capacity to manage the affairs of our crude economy. He should have actually resigned to have his honor. But if it's not doing anything to stop it, then he has no business being there. It means also the president should be able to, say, look, I think I don't have the capacity to be in charge of this ministry. We need to get someone that will do it. And then let's look at the value chain. Now, it's not just necessarily awarding contracts to some militants in order to appease them. It also shows the failure on the part of government, conniving with criminals, thereby legitimizing their criminality by giving them those contracts. What happens if you're awarding a $4 billion monthly contract for pipeline security to criminals, to militants or repentant militants, whatever you want to call them, and you have the security apparatus that you have not been fully equipped and given that manpower, the welfare not being that much, then it means that something is actually wrong in the approach. So what I think we should be doing is to consistently with the media, holding those in authority to account. And when they say this money is missing, crude can't be missing. Never. Crude is stolen, sold, and it has always been done by people in high places. The boys, the Creek boys or those other smaller people will not have the capacity to ferry such amount of crude that has been stolen daily, because they only have smaller batches which they can use to move through this. And with those batches, we have our waterways being monitored. Are we saying that Nigerian waterways not being secured? Is that what we're saying? That the Navy has failed in our responsibility to ensure that the territorial integrity of this country, based on our the nautical miles of the country, is fully protected? Is that what we're saying? Are we saying that they are not well equipped to be able to secure the nation? Are we saying that those that are there lack the capacity to do the job? The answer is no. They are well equipped. They have the right morale to do the job, but because of the high level connivance, the collusion that's taking place from that top level, and those who do this job can only follow authority. So
for you now, ending this whole connivance and collusion, as you have called it, would be a first step to tackling this challenge. I want you to speak to this development also. We saw our crude production fall below 1 million barrels per day, and that hitting, I think, 970,000 barrels per day or 900,000 barrels per day within that benchmark now. What is your projection going forward? Because this sector, whether we like it or not, even though we know we want to diversify the economy, move to other sustainable means of getting revenue, probably move back to the glory days when agriculture was a trailblazer.
Both can work.
But how can we ensure that we shore up production?
First thing first is to be able to apply what I would call the 4+1 principle. There must be justice, there must be fairness, there must be equity, there must be equality, and there must be accountability. 4+1 principle. So it means that the people of the Creek, the Niger Delta region, that are being blessed with these resources must be carried alongside. They must be brought on board and to occupy key positions. Because see, one of the best ways you stop the goat from eating the yam in some cases is to be able to bring the yam to the goat area and tie them together so that the goat cannot just see the yam to want to eat. You cannot expect people to see sugar and not have a taste of it if they have the opportunity to want to taste it. But if you put the sugar in a jar and you distribute that sugar accordingly when it is needed, nobody will want to go steal it. All they will be doing is to wait for when it to be distributed. So first is justice to the people of the Niger Delta region and ensure that we don't just take the oil from those places without first ensuring that there's bioremediation taking place to ensure that we restore the environment for them. Two is to give them that economic opportunity. You cannot be giving people licenses to operate the oil wells in those regions, and they have the rigs and all of the flow station, all of those things from there that are not from that region. None of those persons. Only just recently that one of them from Kola, which is where I'm from. I'm actually from Kola, right? And we have oil wells that surrounds us, and we're not benefiting. My community is so impoverished. For 40 years running.
I want you to land on your thoughts while I ask you the final.
Okay, so impoverished. So when you see things like this, then there's a problem. Then you must create an equitable opportunity for everyone, that every Nigerian can aspire to have the qualification to run this business, to do this business.
Okay.
If Dangote can build a refinery as big as he has done so, why is it that our refineries are not functioning? Good question to ask. When this president came into power, he promised that the refineries will be functional, and he has not done anything. In fact, he was one who spearheaded to the establishment of these refineries when he was the federal minister.
My last question now, because time is against us now. I want you, because when we were listening to the energy consultant earlier, he did speak about how like you also rightly alluded to, agriculture and oil dependence can go hand in hand, both can work. But
Yes.
do you think that can work in near term, considering the fact that we are still a mono economy, in 15 seconds?
Beautiful. Once there's an accountability,
Yes.
it's possible. So everybody who has held any key position in this country should be held accountable and be duly punished or compensated for what they've done. Then we now begin to focus on agriculture.
Yes.
We get the money from oil and put it into agriculture. Nigeria's land is vast and it's very fertile, and it means that they can actually be productive once you do that. We saw Dubai being transformed 40
Yes.
years after, so it means it's possible. We saw Israel having agricultural, expansion in the desert. So it means it's very possible. If it is possible up north, in those areas we just mentioned, it means it is far more possible in Nigeria. All we need is a leadership that can drive it, and the people that will be accountable to the people. Then we'll do the 4+1 that I just mentioned, and that will have success. Yes.
4+1. I like that theory, bringing the whole mathematical equation into the whole theory. Thank you so much, Kevin Fineface, security and energy consultant. Thank you for joining us on the program to lend your voice to how we can make the oil sector better. And I was reading a report when preparing for the program, and it says the absence of a direct link between the economic growth and development of mineral producing areas, mineral producing areas and exploration, production and sale of resources in their communities strips the activity of their legitimacy in the eye of local population. And I think I'm going to end on this note, basically how we can get it better for the nation, how we can ensure the oil sector runs very well. My name is Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for investing your time with us today on the program, and enjoy the rest of your day.